All right, y'all can be seated. Ooh, that's loud. Thank you all for being here for Luke Elliott's thesis. He has been working really hard on this, and he's been a great help for me this year as I've been in and out with some things, and he's just been basically another tutor here at MCA. So if y'all will bow with me real quick, we'll pray, and then he's going to teach some more. So, dear God, I thank you for Luke. I thank you for his heart. I thank you for the message he has for us this morning. I pray that you speak through him, that he's able to be confident in you and what you have taught him, and that we're able to take his words to heart and continue to go out into this world and love others and live a life that is worthy of the calling you've placed on us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Disciplines. There are many different ways to describe disciplines, as well as different kinds of disciplines that can range from putting your kids in timeout to eating a healthy diet. The disciplines we'll be talking about are not necessarily punishment-type disciplines, but rather spiritual growth disciplines. Spiritual disciplines are defined as practices that help us grow in our relationship with the Lord. There are personal spiritual disciplines, like reading the Bible in your own time and praying to God one-on-one, and there are also public spiritual disciplines, like worshiping in a congregation of believers. Spiritual disciplines are also a virtue of being a Christian, and so disciplines are not only a part of Christian life, but essential to the Christian life. The best fertilizer for growing your relationship with God is having good, consistent Christian disciplines. Wayne Delso has been the assistant youth pastor of First Baptist Church of Midland for almost a year now, and I was fortunate enough to discuss these different types of Christian disciplines with him and their importance. The main Christian disciplines Wayne introduced to me are prayer, worship, service, fasting, and celebration. Wayne explained to me that worship and celebration for the Lord are very important Christian disciplines because it helps you remember and renew your faith in difficult times. For example, let's take the book of Exodus, chapter 15. After being saved from Pharaoh and walking through the Red Sea, the Israelites then spent 3 days walking in the wilderness, and running low on water, they began to grow thirsty. They started to complain and ask God why they are not providing for him or for them after saving them from Pharaoh. Then Moses cried out to the Lord, praising and telling the Israelites what God asked of him. Then God blessed them and cleansed the water from the river so they could drink from it. Now, when I talk about worship, I'm not only talking about singing and listening to a pastor talk on Sunday mornings, although there's nothing wrong with that, but rather praising and glorifying and giving thanks to God for the things he has done and continues to do in our life, like Moses did, whether you praise him on your own time or with a body of believers. Wayne also gave me a good illustration of how important it is for parents or leaders of the youth to lead the youth towards God with these spiritual disciplines. The Bible says in Proverbs 22, verse 6, to train a child up in the way of the Lord, and he will not part from it. And the idea of this is we as leaders create this pathway or this straight line for the youth. A good example, I believe, is that of an arrow. And in Psalms, it refers to men having a quiver full of arrows that are like children. Now, once you aim an arrow towards a target or towards a certain direction and release it, there's not much you can do to change the direction. Same with parents and leaders of the youth. Once we have trained the children in the way of the Lord, they will not part from it. Different ways to train them is by creating habits within them. Creating these habits of reading the Bible, of worshiping, these habits of being in community with others, these habits of prayer. These are all important in developing who they are right now and who they will continue to be in adulthood. This illustration should work as an encouragement to us leaders, that we get this great opportunity to put youth on the right path and plant this seed of Christ within them. As I said before, children are like arrows, and once we release them into the world, there's not much we can do to change the path we have set them on, no matter if this path is good or bad. This is why it is important to teach the youth, or anyone that God puts in our life, no matter what the age, to teach them proper spiritual disciplines. Another way you can see disciplines being the basis of anything you do is through education. While it is the teacher's job to hand out homework assignments and give out tests, it is also the student's job to complete these homework assignments and do well on the test. One of the many things I have learned from being an MCA student is how to handle my time wise. Although during my first years at the upper school, I handled my time poorly, and I wasn't disciplined with my classes. This hurt my growth in education, and as a result, I was disciplined with consequences. consequences and push to learn from my mistakes. The disciplines from others grew personal discipline in myself, helping me to grow my relationship with education and meet the educational goals I had for myself, my teachers had for myself, and my parents had. Growing in and practicing good discipline is essential for proper growth. One of the many great books that students read during their MCA careers and one of my personal favorites, is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This story is about a group of British boys stranded on an inhabitable island without any guidance. The moral of the book is to show that people who are left on their own without any discipline or without any guidance or rules can spiral down into a base of existence, driven purely by animal instinct. One of the main characters, and also one of my favorites, is Jack. Jack stresses to the other boys the importance of rules and discipline early on in the book. Jack says, "We've got to have rules and obey them. After all, we are not savages. We are English, and the English are best at everything." Unfortunately, Jack's advice in this book isn't utilized, and things go very wrong for the boys. The author here, William Golding, is trying to illustrate that there are no just rules in life, that if there are no just rules in life, then it will be utter chaos. With those rules, you also need discipline to follow them up. Then, if you do not follow the rules, proper punishment needs to be carried out to reinforce discipline. Similarly with God's rules for us. If we are not personally disciplined to follow God's rules, God's commands, since God is a just and loving God, he disciplines us to push us back on the right path. The most commonly known of God's rules are the 10 Commandments, found in the book of Exodus. And however, these rules are not the only thing God wishes for us to follow. God also desires for us to pray with him, to worship him, to read his Bible on a daily basis, and to fellowship with him. These commandments help us to be disciplined, to do other things, and in turn grow in our relationship with God. You can see all throughout the Bible, God telling us different spiritual disciplines and explaining how to follow them. These spiritual disciplines consist of studying the Bible, prayer, fasting, observing the Sabbath, worship, service, solitude, submission, and celebration. It is important to study the Bible, and not many Christians will deny that, mainly because it is hard to grow or thrive in anything you do, especially spiritual discipline, without knowing who it is all for. In Matthew chapter 4, Jesus was led into the forest where he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights and began to grow hungry, like anyone else would. The devil took this opportunity to try to tempt Jesus, saying, "Why not just turn this stone right here into bread, since you are the Son of God, right?" Jesus responds to the devil, saying, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Here, Jesus is telling the devil, and us as readers, that we are to be in the Word daily as Christians. Now, some Christians believe that it is unnecessary to practice these spiritual disciplines in order to fertilize our relationship with God. I disagree. God does not only tell us how to practice spiritual disciplines, but he commands it from us. Paul writes in 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Paul is writing to the Thessalonians and instructs them to always give glory to God, to pray, and give thanks to God. But these are not only instructions, as we know, these are commands from God. God tells us different spiritual disciplines and how to go about practicing these spiritual disciplines. Instead, it says that it is his own will and commands us to. Therefore, we should obey his commands. The Bible also tells us that we need to fertilize our faith and to not do it with a proud heart. In Matthew 5, verses 5 and 6, Jesus says, "And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father alone who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." Here Jesus gives us yet another spiritual discipline, which is prayer, as well as how to correctly practice this spiritual discipline. He tells us not to pray in crowds only to obtain the glory for ourselves, but rather to go into your room by yourself, shut the door, and pray to God one-on-one. Then you will be rewarded. My youth pastor, Wayne, also recommended a book for me that he read in seminary called Celebration of Discipline by Richard J. Foster. In this book, Foster gives us many different directions towards a path to spiritual growth. He lists inward, outward, and corporate disciplines that all Christians should strive to accomplish. When talking about prayer, Foster says that it is the most central and the most important of all the disciplines, and we should as Christians strive to accomplish. Foster writes, "We are not trying to conjure up something in our imagination that is not so, nor are we trying to manipulate God and tell him what to do. It's quite the opposite. We are asking God to tell us what to do. God is the ground of our beseeching, and we are utterly dependent on him." Here, Foster stresses to his readers that prayer is not us telling God what to do or what he should do in our lives, but rather asking God for guidance to grow with him in our life. This is why, in the end, prayer is the most central and the most important Christian discipline in growing your relationship with Christ. Today, I challenge everyone here, everyone listening, that you not only listen to what I have said, but rather challenge yourself to practice these disciplines. To practice whether by simply praising God for the little things he does in your life, whether good or bad, or practicing all of these spiritual disciplines I've talked about by creating day-to-day habits within them. Thank you.
It's over.
It is.
Well, halfway over, I guess. The hard part's
yes,
over.
There you go.
Good job, man. So, start out nice and easy. What are your plans for next year?
So this is a hard question, actually. I plan on pursuing and continuing my basketball career in college. God hasn't shown me where yet, but I also plan on pursuing a mechanical engineering degree.
Okay. So, now a little bit more on your topic. Who in your life, or is there anyone in your life that has been essential in helping you to grow in spiritual discipline?
Yes. So one of my biggest people that I look up to would be my sister. So she was also a college athlete, and it's just hard to deal with everything. Hard to be a diligent in the word, and hard to be consistent with God, and while playing basketball and trying to do it at a competitive level. And so she's shown me that, or she's shown me that it's possible, basically. And so I would say my sister.
That's awesome. So, in talking about basketball, I had the pleasure of coaching you for a little bit. Got to see you kind of grow from the gangly boy to the guy who's out there about dunking and everything. So, with that, you worked really hard at basketball. Still work really hard, and so I've seen that discipline there for you when it comes to basketball. Do you think one discipline, so for example, basketball, can help you in another discipline?
So yes, I do. Probably not in the way you're asking, but with basketball, that's probably the most time I've talked to God one-on-one in prayer about calming me in certain events that might be stressful, or just thanking him that I can even play this sport without injury and without other things worrying about things like that. So
that's cool. Yeah, that took a turn I was not expecting.
Yeah.
So that kind of feeds into what you're talking about, right? With the pray without ceasing. Mm-hmm. That's kind of, you're on the basketball court, and some people are thinking of other things. You're there talking to God, and that's pretty cool. Yeah. So, let's see. What do I want to ask? I got so many questions. I guess so you kind of mentioned, and the English language is just a terrible language sometimes. So you have the word, discipline in talking about having discipline, but then there's also the word being disciplined, right? Where you have to be disciplined. What's the difference between those? So having discipline versus being disciplined.
So I would say having disciplined is something you have before you make decisions, and when you don't have discipline, that's when being disciplined comes after the fact. So I would say being disciplined is kind of a little more on the punishment type thing. I'll bring up the Freedom V.
Roll your eyes as you say it.
Yeah. With the Freedom V, let's say you have a lot of freedom, but then you're not disciplined, so then you lose freedom. And the way you gain more is by being disciplined by other people or by even yourself to go more towards the upright of the freedom V.
Okay. So why do you think, because the way you're describing it, both are positive, right? Why do you think, as a whole, we kind of look at being disciplined, especially, but sometimes even discipline itself, why do we look at it so negatively if it helps?
I would think it's because it's usually related more towards pain. Like the current emotion of being disciplined is like, oh, I've done something wrong. And people usually don't like to admit when they've done something wrong. And so looking at it more like of a positive way is like when you are being disciplined, you're growing, whether that is in basketball or with your relationship with the Lord. So
is pain a bad thing?
I would say no. It is not a bad thing. It helps you learn.
Okay. So what role does love have in discipline?
What role does love have? I would say it has a very important role because, like, if I didn't love God or didn't love someone, then I wouldn't want to be disciplined to grow in that relationship with them. So I think love is a very important characteristic of a discipline, to where without it, you won't be able to have any joy in practicing discipline.
So if you love something, you'll work at it, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely will.
What about being disciplined? What role does love have in being disciplined?
I would say, so going from like parents disciplining their kids, like they wouldn't discipline them if they didn't love them and they didn't want them to like learn from their mistakes or to grow as people. So I would say that's how love goes into being disciplined.
Okay. What might cause us to fall out of discipline?
Fall out of discipline.
I mean, there's probably a lot of different answers, so you might have to think specifically. So maybe in your life, has there ever been a something that you're working on, you're trying to be disciplined in, but you find yourself kind of faltering? What is it for you maybe that might be the thorn in your side?
Okay, so I'll use the example of working out because, I work out all the time. Obviously. And so, no, I actually don't. So, I would say, like, when I do work out, I try to, like, overdo it sometimes. So, like, when I do overdo it, it kind of feels like more of, like, an obligation rather than, like, I'm growing and working out so I can be better in other things. And so, like, at the end of my speech, I, like, challenge people to either do the small thing of just like thanking God for the little things he does in your life. And I think that's important, of like starting in baby steps, because if you just go like, okay, I'm going to read the Bible every day, like one chapter a day, and then pray 20 times today, I think that can be like overwhelming in a way.
Okay. That's good. So don't overdo it.
Yeah.
What role does community play in having good discipline?
I think like the people you surround yourself with, I think it was in Hagen's oral, like surround yourself with good characters and good people, because like in the end, like when you're down or when you fail in something, they're the ones that are gonna pick you up and get you back on that right path. Okay,
so not doing it alone, right? So
yeah,
basketball, you got your team. Working out, hopefully you got a workout partner, spotter, something.
I do.
All right. Yeah. And then Christian wise, right? You need community to stay in it.
Right.
So what kind of practical steps? You got a lot of seniors or someday seniors in this room. What practical steps do you think you're planning on taking, or that you think students should take in order to maintain that discipline as they move on into college and on their own? No longer have the family community there.
Oh, I see. So, like, can you restate the question?
Yeah, so how when you move on into this next step of your life, you're more or less kind of more solo, right? Mm-hmm. How can you maintain community in order to maintain discipline?
Right. So I think staying in connection with the people, because I'll be in Midland, so it'll be very easy for me to stay in connection with the people around me. But I would say staying in connection with them is very important, and then to go on to finding new people who can encourage you. I don't know how you would do that, honestly, but I bet there is a way somehow to find good people out there.
Still working on it, yeah. I'll do one more question. So you mentioned remembrance moments and those kind of being a pillar that you can kind of look to as kind of moments in your life to help you better praise or better worship, right? Moments that you can remember that God's followed through. What's one remembrance moment in your life that you can look to as a remembrance of, man, this discipline, following God, worshiping God, man, it's worth it?
Right. I would say he's given me a lot of things with being disciplined and with being consistent with him. He's given me a great family. He's given me the ability to continue on the sport I love playing, and then he's also given me great friends that I can always go to in needs of hard times or help. So I would say he gives us a lot of things that we don't notice all the time.
Good. The old count your blessings, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll pass it on.
Oh, is it heavy?
Okay. Everybody's glad you're drinking some water.
Mm-hmm.
The boys seem to be about the water. Okay, good job. You did a good job presenting. I want to piggyback on what Mr. Reed was saying about counting your blessings, right? And when you and I talked back there, you were talking about that was something you wanted to leave people with, was a sense of gratitude, that they would be grateful for the small things in their life, is how you put it, I think. Would you consider gratitude a discipline? Or maybe the attitude of gratitude? Or a poet, and I didn't know it. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. But having that overwhelming sense of gratitude, or that personal practice of thanking the Lord for big things and small things.
Yeah. So the book my youth pastor gave me, the author mentions 9 of the I would say kind of most basic spiritual disciplines. So I bet gratitude goes into one of those. Probably celebration. So celebration is one of them, and so celebrating the Lord and thanking Him for the things He has given you what I would say gratitude. So in a way, yes, but more celebration.
Okay, so would you say that that's a discipline? If we said it was a discipline, that's easy for you or hard for you? Does it come naturally to you or not?
I would say at times. Mm-hmm. So it comes easy when it comes to basketball of I did win this game, but I mean you're the person who it's all for, or not person, you're the God who it's all for,
right?
And you're the reason I can even play this right now. And so in some areas of life it comes easy, in some not so much.
So what areas would it be more difficult?
I would say even going simpler than basketball, homework, I guess, completing a homework assignment and getting a good grade. It's kind of oh yeah, I did this work, I wrote what was down. It's hard to go back to God during those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that makes me think too, Clayton shared this morning about mountaintop experiences and valley experiences, right? And when do you feel like it's easier to practice Christian discipline? So not necessarily gratitude, but you talked specifically about prayer, other ones too, but your focus was prayer. Is that easier on the mountain or in the valley for you?
For me, I would say, for me, I would probably say on the mountain. Just it's when I'm on those high points, it's good to see and talk to God hey, thanks for doing this for me. And then I would say some valleys they are, but then some valleys I'm confused on why I am in this valley, I would say. So with basketball of like not completing, like going all the way. Right. I would like question God, like I've had 4 chances and here I am without any of them, and then some valleys like this right here right now.
This is a valley. This is not a mountain.
This is not a mountain. Maybe in like 30 minutes it'll be a mountain.
We'll ask you again in 30 minutes where we are.
And so I would say like with here right now, it's easier to like ask God to help me in this situation.
That's what's going on in the head.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure all the seniors over there that have already gone can relate, and those that haven't are nervous. So, okay, you also talked about in the book that Mr. Delso gave you. I mean, you just mentioned that there were 9 different disciplines, but you listed in your paper, I think 5. So I'll tell you again what they were: prayer, worship, service, fasting, and celebration. Yes. It seemed like you mostly chose to speak in your paper about prayer. Why did you choose that and not one of the others?
So I would say at the beginning of like doing all this, I was going to talk about each and every one, but then I was like, that's a lot. And so I don't like public speaking, and so I didn't want to say all those mainly. And so prayer was like a big one because it, like in my paper I said it was like the most central and like most important of all the disciplines, so I thought I should like really hit on prayer.
I think that's good. I've noticed another common theme attending a lot of the senior guys' orals. Y'all talk a lot about like 7th, 8th, 9th grade spending time in the gym, right? And then at some point there's this shift that happens.
Right.
What causes the shift?
Probably like a realization, for me at least. Like I didn't know 8th grade would go on my GPA.
Okay. You hear that, 8th grade or 7th
yes,
graders?
Yes, 8th graders. It does go on your GPA.
Okay.
And so then, like, starting off behind, I felt like I had to, like, catch up already. And then maturing, like, it's enjoyable to, like, come into, like, the resource center or the student center and, like, just talk to people. Talk to, like, tutors who you've been at this school with for a lot of time now. And talking to the younger kids, too.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit, and then I'm going to pass to Ms. Shelburne.
Okay.
All right, you talked about Lord of the Flies, and that's also one of my favorite books. I remember reading it in high school, and I read it recently again. I won't go Mr. Miller and have you assign different characters to the senior class because I don't want to cause division. But that is my question for you. So which of the characters is the most like you? And just as a reminder, I went ahead and Googled the 4 main characters so that you would know. Jack, Piggy, Ralph, and Simon. So who do you most...
Simon was a smart one, right?
I think so. It's been a bit. Yeah, okay.
Simon? No. Okay.
You have to answer. This isn't like ask your friends.
No, I wouldn't say Simon or Jack. Because, like, Jack in this, he was like the quiet one, but he like knew what was right, I guess, the whole time. He's like
the moral.
Yeah, the moral one. And so, who was like the good? Was it Piggy? Was the good leader, or no?
I'll stop. Piggy was the one. I'm trying to. Maybe Miss Shelburne would be better to.
Oh wait, no, Piggy was. Never mind.
I feel like you and I read about the same. We might need a refresher. Yeah, he wore the glasses, right? He ended up being an outcast. His glasses get smashed.
Okay, not Piggy. Ralph. I'll say Ralph.
You're going with okay. I'm going to let you off the hook. We're going to let Miss Shelburne, unless she wants to follow up with more Lord of the Rings questions, or not Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Rings is good too.
So why is Lord of the Flies your personal favorite? One of your personal favorites?
I like stories a lot, and so that's kind of like bad with being at MCA because we don't do a lot of stories. It's more like philosophy, which I've grown to like philosophy more and more. But I mean, the story is just really interesting. Boys are on an island and they get to hunt, and argue. It's fun.
I understand. Yeah, that's always the boys' favorite and everything. So you said other books. That I like stories too, and you said more philosophy. Has there been a philosophy book or another book that has made a big impact in your life that you've read here at MCA? And it's okay if not.
I bet there is, but not thinking about it, I guess.
Okay. So non-MCA, since you like stories, has there been any book that you've read? Basketball play, I'm giving you the chance. Seize the moment.
Does a documentary count?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Totally fine.
I don't read that much.
It's okay.
I would say The Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
It's a really inspiring Michael Jordan documentary. It's on Netflix. If you like basketball, I would encourage you to watch it. But it's cool to just see like his mindset towards everything. Probably not like the best Christian mindset, but with going out to play a basketball game, it helps you get in that mindset of like, okay, it's time to go. It's time to go win a game.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I know my second oldest son was a Michael Jordan fan and wore the jersey, and when he got his first Michael Jordan shoes, we lived on Country Club. We'd walk to First Baptist, for basketball practice and games. So he would walk over in his regular tennis shoes and carry his Michael Jordans. And we
can't
would
put those on the ground.
No, you couldn't. And so we did our game, and then he would come out and get his little rag and polish them up, put them in the shoe box, and walk back home with them. So I understand how important that is. So anyway, let's get a little bit go back to Christian disciplines, and as you mentioned, prayer, worship, service, fasting, and celebration, and there's others as you discovered and everything in your reading. So in what area of life do you most need growth? Which one of those disciplines do you think you need more growth in?
Would you say of like the first 5 or all of them?
Any of them.
So there is one, solitude,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's kind of more on like the glory. It focuses on glory for God and not for yourself. And so solitude and prayer can like go hand in hand with like going into your room and shutting the door and like praying to God like by yourself. Like that's very like important to me that I do that every now and then, or I should do it every day, but I don't know. I'm a person, so
You're a person.
yeah.
You're human.
And so I would say like solitude is like the hardest, because like sometimes when I do like speak to the youth and like the people I lead, it's hard to like, I don't know, speak with the mindset of like God is speaking through me rather than like me speaking to these kids.
Okay. And I think that is a hard one. With solitude, does silence go along with that, or is there a difference between silence and solitude?
So I've like done a lot of research, because they're like, those are like 9 of like the basic disciplines. I was like, what are the other disciplines? And I saw that like silence and solitude were like not the same, but I mean for me they are kind of the same, because like going into your room and like having that silence of just like you and God and talking and trying to hear what he has to say about it. So I do think silence and solitude in a way go together.
Okay. Yeah, it is a very fine line.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is hard for us just to sit and not say anything.
Right.
Because our minds are going, and,
Right.
and silence is awkward.
Yeah.
It totally is awkward. So, yeah, okay. It seems like in those spiritual disciplines that you're very strong in prayer, because pray without ceasing. If you're praying on the basketball field, basketball court, because I would probably be praying, Lord, please let me make that shot so I won't stink it up, but you're not. You've got a better attitude than I do. So what other discipline, Christian discipline, would you say that comes very natural to you?
Ooh. I would say in the summer, celebration comes more naturally, just because like during the summer I go on like a lot of camps, a lot of church camps, and I'll be like this summer I'll be leading a lot of camps, and so it's cool to see like when people, I don't know, with hymns at church, like sometimes they impact me, but sometimes it's like going through the motions, I would say. And so summer is like it's different and it's new, and so I see God in a different way. And so I would say like during the summer celebration, and then probably all around like service. So like I think like going out to work for God, more a volunteer, not for money. Don't listen to that. He's my boss, so he pays me. Going out and like volunteering for God and like doing things for God, not for like your own desires, but for His desires is I would say one of my fortes.
Okay, and I've seen that in you. I really have. So that's very nice. That would be the one I'd choose. All right. So you said early in the year, in 8th grade, you didn't know that they counted on your GPA, wasting
Yes.
time. And now that you're a senior and you're more mature, what is the single biggest time waster in your life at this point?
Probably my phone.
Your phone.
Yeah, I find a lot that I play a lot of games on my phone. Mm-hmm. And so Clash of Clans has been one of the the big ones. Dana introduced me one of my old favorites, Trigger Fist.
Okay.
It's fun if you haven't played it, but it gets addicting. So I would say that's like the biggest time waster because it in no way productive at all.
Okay. So Trigger Fist.
Yes.
So I should
Fist.
try that. Okay.
If you want to.
Okay. Do you think I could accomplish it?
Accomplish it?
Yeah. Could I play it at the old age that I am?
Oh, definitely. It's for all ages.
So, okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
5 and over. So
You're
not
good.
all.
You're good. Got to keep my eye on you.
How do you go from Trigger Fist to
Christian disciplines.
Yeah. So you did mention you talked about prayer kind of being the central discipline. What makes it so important? Why is it the central discipline, do you think?
I would say because you can pray about all the disciplines, and so you can pray that God gives you strength and guidance to do the rest of the disciplines, like reading the Bible or fasting or correct worship with Him. So I would say with prayer, they all go hand in hand with it.
So work on prayer, that makes everything else at least a step easier.
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhat easier, yes.
That's good. So to jump back to Michael Jordan. So I know you like talking sports and everything.
Yes,
so with Michael Jordan, so specifically, I also watched that documentary. It's really good. So with that, were there any? Is there anything you've been able to take away from Michael Jordan as some way that you can better yourself in discipline?
So just any kind of discipline?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say his work ethic was good. I remember one of his stories. I can't remember who was in the gym with him, but it was before a game, and he saw someone working, shooting around, and so he changed his mindset right then and there. I got to be better, and so that's not the best mindset, but having that mindset of I want to be the best and I want to be better than everyone. Someone said it was bad, and I agree, but with playing basketball, that is a good mindset, I would say, just because it's always good to grow and be better if that is one of the ways to do it.
Yeah, so some disciplines maybe you got to treat a little bit different than others, right? Mm-hmm. So basketball, like you just said, having that mindset of no one's going to outwork me, no one's going to be in the gym longer than me, I'm going to be the best. That mentality doesn't maybe cross over to Christianity. So what does that mindset need to be then What's the difference there?
Yeah, so I think it changes a little bit with Christianity, because I feel like if you with Christianity you say, I want to be the best at this and this, then it won't go your way, I would say. But in a way, you still want to be better than what you are right now. So I would say competing against yourself. That's one of the mottos we said during basketball before every game. We're competing against ourselves. And so I would say wanting to grow in your relationship with God and wanting to pursue these Christian disciplines is a way that can transfer from being a basketball discipline to being a Christian discipline.
I think you just kind of said it in there. That was really good. But what is the ultimate, why have discipline in Christianity? What is the ultimate there for that?
To grow in your relationship with God.
Okay. So, how does you're about to go? Almost there.
Gotta look.
So you're about to graduate and people disperse and people change and all this stuff is happening. What role does discipline play when it comes to relationships? So you have a lot of relationships here at the school, all that stuff. Some of that might shift and change. What role does discipline play in maintaining those?
So I would go back to what we were talking about earlier with love. If you do love your relationship with those certain people, like friendships, and love those relationships with your family, then I wouldn't say it necessarily wouldn't be hard, but it would be a lot easier to find, what's the word? Find a reason why to go back to those. And so, what was your question?
What role does discipline play in maintaining relationships?
Okay. So if you do love those relationships, then discipline will then kind of come easy into it. Into if I do move out of Midland ever, then the discipline of calling my parents once a week or once a month or something like that. Sometimes once a month is good. They can talk a long time. And so the discipline of that helps with going back and keeping those relationships steady.
Okay. I have one last question. I realize maybe this is going to sound like a downer for a question to be the last one, but what value do you think loss has in building discipline? So, sadly, obviously, basketball, we didn't, accomplish what we had aimed for, whatever. In our Christian walk, sometimes we mess up. We don't achieve what we are hoping to achieve. What value does loss have in that?
Right. So with basketball, I'll go back to losing state a few times. Each year coming back, it was during practice, 5 a.m. practices are hard to get up and even just get out of bed. But remembering what you have lost and how that felt of pushing yourself to the max during those practices. And then in a Christian view, I feel it's a lot easier with prayer, because in that case, God can help us in those cases, to where we feel lost and we feel down, but then God will be there, always be there to pick us back up.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to continue a little bit on the downer track that Mr. Reed just took us on.
So much fun.
Okay, you said in your paper, many Christians believe that it's unnecessary to practice spiritual disciplines in order to fertilize our relationship with God. The Bible tells us that if we fertilize our faith as well as our relationship with the Lord, then He will reward us. What kind of things are we talking about that are fertilizing? What fertilizes your faith?
Spiritual disciplines.
Okay, specifically, give me 2, 3.
Prayer definitely does, because that's a one-on-one connection with God.
Mm-hmm.
It's a straight phone call to Him, and He always answers. So I would say prayer is a good one, because it's just growing our relationship with God. Let's see. service is a good one in growing. You can always grow in service, and sometimes people don't see the service that you put in, but sometimes they do. And so it could be good both ways of how it works. And so people seeing that like service that you have done can help even them be inspired and grow. You said 3?
Oh, I said 2 or 3.
2.
That's good.
2's good.
Okay, so okay, aim low.
Exactly.
Okay.
You won't
So
be disappointed.
what happens for the believer when they feel like they're fertilizing their faith, right? Like I feel like I'm praying to the Lord and I'm spending time in His Word and I'm reaching out to Him. I'm doing these things, but then it doesn't feel like I'm getting anything back. Like,
So-
what happens then? Like when I'm putting the fertilizer down and weeds are still coming up.
To be honest, I feel like if like you are practicing all of these and you're doing them diligently and how He asked, then you won't ever feel that need of like no return. Like I feel like He'll always show that He's there in ways,
So
if that's what you're asking.
it is what I'm asking. So what would you say then about Job?
Right. So
Because I feel right. Because I mean, he was doing all the right things, which is why he ended up in the place he was in. And I have to think he felt like the Lord wasn't hearing his prayers and whatnot. What do you think?
So with Clayton, just a minute ago or an hour ago, he talked about like Job, like you said, was doing all the right things, but God still let the devil like do these things with him. But it was because God knew Job's faith, and it says that in the Bible that he will not fall from it. And I think that's like one of the reasons why he didn't, is because his faith was so strong with the Lord. And so God does like allow bad things to happen, but at the same time I think He knows who we are and like how much we can handle. And when Job like does start like questioning things, then He like reveals Himself in that moment.
Okay, I think that's good. You also talked about. Let me find the beginning of that sentence. It's talking about your book, and it says that the author stresses to readers that prayer is not us telling God what He needs or should do in our life, but rather asking God for guidance to grow with Him in our life. So you're talking about the purpose of prayer being we're asking the Lord for guidance. So how does the Lord guide you? Like even thinking about specifically, you're coming up on a big decision, what you're going to do after high school and where you're going to play basketball, what you're going to study, all those things, big decisions coming up in life. How do you hear from the Lord?
So like although He hasn't like revealed like what He wants me to do in college or like where to go for college, I think He does, like He still knows what I am going to do and what He wants. I would also say He's like given me like a great, I don't know the word, a great life in that like I'm surrounded by Christians every day, and like I have parents that make me go to church, but at the same time it's good that they do, which is what I talked about. And that like I have a lot of opportunities to like grow in my walk and like let other people grow in their walk. Okay, I have one more question. Okay. I've seen you around young kids, not even necessarily like 7th, 8th graders, but I've noticed you like whether it be maybe you're at a basketball game, not playing, but you're there, and there'll be little kids and they hang on you, right? Yes. I think Mr. Reed's kids probably hang on you, right? And I just noticed that you have a charisma that kids are attracted to, and I've seen that like not only do the kids like it, but you light up as well. Like you really have a gift with kids. So I wanted to ask you, what have you learned the most? And I know you also work with kids a lot in the summer. So what have you learned the most from working with young kids? So I would say like they have shown me that like kids can be very dramatic at times, but they can also be like very joyful and empathetic about like what they do in life, if that's the right word, I don't know. And so it would show me like in a lot of things you do, like especially with like handling with kids, just show like joy and like even if it's not like telling other people directly like the word of Christ, even just having like a Christ-like attitude of joy can still show them Christ through that. Mm-hmm. So I would say kids show me that it's good to always be joyful.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Going back to that phone call to mom and dad once a week, once a month.
It depends.
I'll give you a little insight.
Okay.
You better call. Because if not, mom and dad have all the control of that phone that they're paying.
Mm-hmm.
And so then if you don't answer, they start calling your friends, to find out about you. So just be sure to make those phone calls, all right? Just can tell you that. Yeah, good discipline. Like, my husband was really good. He went off to Baylor, and Sunday at 2:30, he always did that call with his parents. And, and that was just so special. Sometimes, like, I would rather be doing something else, but he'd make that phone call.
Priority.
Yeah, priority. Mm-hmm. And he kept that going even after we got married. It was, we lived out of town. He always called his parents. And so that was so special because after they're in heaven, you really do miss those phone calls. So anyway, I know you're not to that point yet. But anyway, they do control the purse strings on that part, okay? So we talked about, you talked about this kind of the valley part, and if you attended Ryan's oral, he gave an analogy of the thesis process. Were you there for that time?
Was it what Clayton was saying with the ladder?
The ladder. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes.
Okay. So what would be your analogy of the thesis process?
I mean, he gave it pretty good. Mm-hmm. 1,000-foot ladder for a 2-foot slide. Let's see. I would say, like, going down the slide, you're still nervous. Like, it seems like a 1,000-foot slide.
Okay.
Even though it is a 2-foot slide, so yeah.
Okay. Even a 2-foot with little turns in there, maybe a little bumpy?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Want to make sure of that. All right. Well, Mrs. Westfall and Mr. Reed have taken most of my questions that I had for you.
That's good.
So, that's going to put me, I guess, that I'm going to have to resort to one of my tests for you. Okay. Will that be okay?
Yes, it will.
For us just to end on a lighter note?
Yes.
Get you up out of that valley?
Yes, I've been warned about your tests, so I'm ready.
So in this, it's going to be kind of discipline choices that we make are very important what we do in life. So these are some would you rather questions. All right? So, first one. Would you rather go to jail for a crime you did not commit or allow someone else to go to jail for a crime you committed?
Do I get to pick the person?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
that's a good one. I like that.
Then the second option.
Okay, and who's going to jail?
I didn't know you were going to have to say that.
Yeah. Truth. We're all about truth.
Well, it'd be obviously someone I don't like that much. I don't think I should say that.
Maybe you shouldn't reveal that name.
Maybe I shouldn't, yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll let you go. Okay. You're just going to send some poor person you don't like to jail.
Yes.
Okay. That's good of you. All right. Second question. Would you rather perform surgery or fly a commercial plane without any qualifications?
Oh, man. Commercial plane.
Commercial plane.
Yes, I'm taking aerospace this year.
So you do have qualifications.
I do have qualifications. I feel like that's somewhat a qualification.
All right. I like that. I love it. You're so good thinking through. Good choices. Have you ever stayed at a Holiday Inn?
Yes.
Okay, man, two. You're good. You're good. I don't know whether I'd fly with you, but all right. Would you rather teach a water aerobics class to teenagers, so you're pretty good with kids and everything, or a hip hop dance class to the elderly?
Oh. I'll do hip hop. That sounds like it'll be fun, and I can teach them like 3 things, and then they'll be satisfied. I feel like. So.
We'll remember them. You keep reteaching them. Yeah. All right. Would you rather be born 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future?
100 years in the future.
Why?
The past does not sound fun with history. With like taking a lot of history classes, you go over like the bad things that happen, and so, I mean, the past 100 years, they just don't sound fun at all, really. So I would say future.
Okay, seems like a lot of improvements there.
Yes,
okay.
hopefully.
At least we have running water, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you rather eat old sushi or drink expired milk?
I would say expired milk because I don't know. I like milk a lot, so I don't like sushi, and so that's probably like the main factor is expired milk.
Okay. I'd have to agree with you. I'd have to down the milk too. Sushi, no.
Nope.
All right, so this is the last one, and answer this. This one of them's coming up really quick. Would you rather faint at your wedding or graduation? Not that you'd faint, but you might.
Graduation. I feel like at the wedding, you have like the photographer, and she'll definitely like get that, and so it'd be with you in picture forever. So.
All right, so we'll keep our eye open next Saturday, okay? Make sure you don't pay. Thanks, Luke, for letting me have a little fun.
Thank you. Questions?
It's your turn.
It's your turn.
Okay, so I'll ask like each of you a different question, and then we'll just see who wants to go first. So, Mr. Reed, in the past, you've like been in charge of fine arts, and with that, we don't do it anymore, but they made fine arts movies. And so I know you were in charge of those movies, and so can you tell us a funny story from something that happened in one of those movies? If you have one right now, then go ahead. But I can continue asking other questions too.
Oh, man.
And let you think.
All right, I'll
answer right away.
So, yeah, I got one. So one of the most interesting back in the Filmferno days, we were filming a western portion of the film, and we were around this pond. Someone was just letting us use their land, and so we were filming next to this pond, and supposed to be like, I think they're cleaning laundry or whatever, and we're about to have a fight happen and everything. And Hunter Muehlbrad decided, hey, it'd be really cool if we got some good shots of these big old steers that are on the other side of the pond. And so, I don't remember him actually fully telling us his plan. But we're over on the other side, setting up cameras, getting ready, and he decides to run around the backside and basically scare them, so they run around to our side, because the fence was keeping them from going the other way. So he kind of scares them, and they come around, and we kind of turn around, and there's like a full-on stampede coming our way, and I said a statement that the students made fun of me for a long time. Still hear this from them today. I won't repeat it, but
I see.
they were coming, and I was frightened. And my first thought was like, "Oh gosh, I'm going to get a bunch of kids killed by a bunch of bulls." And so we all jumped behind trees, and they kind of meandered the other way, thankfully. But yeah, it was very frightening for a second, and then became a great funny story that I'm still made fun of today for.
I'll have to ask one of those students what you said.
Fair.
Okay. I'll ask Ms. Shelburne first. Can you tell us one of your favorite fine arts play, preferably from last year, and why?
Oh, no.
If you need some time, I can ask Ms. Westfall. Need some
Yeah,
time?
let me think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I may need
She
time
may
too.
need
You may,
time.
yeah, that is true.
That way we're working together here.
So this year you taught sports physics with us, and so it's a very interesting class, and I encourage people to take it next year. But what is the funniest thing that has happened in sports physics this past semester?
Okay, I'm going to think you had time to think off that.
My gosh, that is a hard choice. Yeah, because I've talked with Mr. Reed about this. I was just so impressed with y'all last year. Yeah, I just from the start and then all the way through the plays till we ended, I was just so impressed with each group that y'all did such a fantastic job. And I can't say that about years past. I mean, there's always been that one little blooper,
Or the years future.
Yeah, well, that's right. See, y'all set the standard high, okay? So juniors better beware, okay? So, yeah, I can't choose. I mean, I'd like to, but y'all all did such a wonderful, job. So I'd have to, I guess, use a golden ticket that I probably owe you on that one,
I
okay?
expect that golden ticket
Okay,
after this.
I'll give it to you. Because I can't choose because y'all did a wonderful time. Y'all made it fun
That
and
sounds
exciting.
about right. Thank you.
So I think us as a staff just learned something new, that we can use golden tickets up here when we don't want to answer questions.
You can.
I mean, I
good
have one
bargain.
in my office, so no, I have a hard time. I really commend all of you seniors for answering all these questions on the spot because I find it really difficult. Sports physics was a really fun class. We had a really good time this year, and my memory is not great. So I'm just going to go with our last class. We went to play. We went to play miniature golf, right, at Green Acres because it's sports, right?
Exactly.
And so I was in a group with you. You got a hole in one, which was great. I was very impressed. You won our whole round of our group. I mean, we weren't very good, so
Well, yeah,
that's
it
not saying a
wasn't
lot. But
an impressive group.
I think we were around on maybe like hole 13-ish back there, and you were headed to the playground. I'm not sure why. There's some stairs. I don't know if y'all been there. But Luke started going, and then before we know it, he has just slid all the way down all the stairs. But he didn't lose his ball, and he didn't lose the club.
It was slippery, in my defense.
It had not been raining.
Rolled down the
There
stairs.
were not leaves. I saw Mr. Snell out there blowing off all the... I don't know what you did. But it made
Yeah,
it memorable.
it
That
was.
whole class was very memorable. It was fun to have all of you guys. I'd had all of you in class before, and to come back for y'all's last finale, it was a lot of fun. And so I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So, sure, I'll close this. All right, join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for Luke. Thank you for the heart that you've given him to just want to know you more and to love you more, Lord, and to lead his peers in that as well, Lord. And so I just thank you for giving him the words this morning, Lord, that he would bring you glory. Thank you for just his addition to this school, Lord. He is a blessing here. And just pray that you would go before him as he makes this transition into a new season of life. Pray that you would bless him, that you would grow him in these Christian disciplines, and that he would be a witness to others, Lord, for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.